So let's start off with slope-intercept form. Do you know what the formula for slope-intercept form is? I'm curious. Go ahead and say it out loud.
Y equals mx plus b.
Good. If you have seen this formula before, please raise your hand so I can see how many have seen it before. Oh, good, good, good. That's the majority. I think I saw almost 80 to 90% of you raise your hand. So this formula is a shortcut. If you see something in this form, you immediately know what the M is and you know what the B is. Okay? Let's write down what is M anyways. M is going to stand for the what? Since you've already heard it before. And the B is going to stand for the what? Good. Just to make a connection with you. This is also where it begins. I was trying to use this idea when we were in the last unit, in Unit 2. Where does it begin? Where would it be if x was 0? Do you remember that? I was talking about that. That's the y-intercept. I was trying to make this connection in the last unit as well. Okay, so if you have something in this form, you can immediately know what the slope and the y-intercept is. So for example, if I said y equals negative 2.5x plus 3.2, I'm going to put a little 4 right here in a circle. I'm hoping you know what the slope is. M equals blank. B equals blank. This is how easy the first questions are. The first 6 questions, as a matter of fact, are this easy on your worksheet. Okay? So if you see this equation, the thing in front of the x is your slope. The thing that is being added to the x quantity, or the thing by itself, the number by itself, is your y-intercept. What is M? What is your B? If you said those two things, you are correct. Good job. The only way this gets harder is if I were to ask a question that didn't have a slope or didn't have a y-intercept. I'll give you 2 more examples. If I said y equals 5, and if I said y equals 3/4 x. Okay? I'm going to put M equals blank here, B equals blank here. And then over here I have another problem, M equals blank and B equals blank. Let's just see if I can trick you at all. Don't tell me, but let's do this one first. I want you to tell the person you're sitting next to or the person around you, what do you think the M is and what do you think the B is for this problem right here? Discuss, please. I don't, but you can borrow any one of these things right there. Yes. Okie dokie. So M is what? Say it out loud. What do you think?
0.
If you said 0, you are correct. The B is what? So just so you know, if I know that the thing that's multiplying the x is your slope, do you see an x here anywhere?
No.
If you don't see an x, that means that M has to be 0. It means that your slope has to be 0 because the x has gone away. There's no x. There is 0 x's there. 0 represents nothing. There's no x there. This is just a number. That's the b. The m is 0. I'm hoping that makes sense to you. So now over here, what's the m? And the b? Good. I want you to know the difference between these two. The difference, the biggest difference is that this is a horizontal line. This one is not a horizontal line, but it goes through the origin. This one goes through the origin. And if you don't know what the origin is, that's this point right there. It goes through the crosshairs of 0, 0. Has to, because the y-intercept is 0. It has to go through that 0 point. Okay? So your first step is, can you look at an equation and know what m and b is? Pretty simple stuff, right? Second step, write an equation. With m is equal to -5 and b equals -6. This is like number 7. Write an equation with, and it's going to say write an equation of a line. Of a line. Write an equation of a line with m is equal to -5 and b is equal to -6. Write an equation. That's really messy. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm doing a disservice to you because it's so messy. Let me just do that over again. Equation of a line with m is -5 and b is -6. Do you know how to make a line with those two pieces of information? An equation of a line? What does it mean? It means replace everything except, or replace the m and replace the b. It's like what we did before with our arithmetic sequence and series, and we're only replacing the m and we're only replacing the b. Can you do it? Let me see, James. I'm hoping James can come up with an equation of a line with those two pieces of information. What do you think? If not, I'm going to go to Xavier next.
I don't know.
Okay, Xavier, you got to help him out. What's the equation of the line, Xavier?
y equals -5x plus -6.
Plus a -6 is fine. I would never mark you wrong for a plus a -6. Never mark you wrong.
Under -5.
One more time.
Put a 1 under -5.
You can. I would never mark you wrong for that either. Those will only help you when you get to the graph part. But adding a -6, do I have to write adding -6? No. You can just write -6 because a positive times a negative is a negative, and that's easier to write. -5 divided by 1 is -5. That's why we don't usually write things over 1, but they're there. I'm glad that you know it. James, I want you to see how he did this. He replaced the m with -5. He replaced the b with
-6.
So it's very easy to write, right? I want you, okay, so how would you, well, I guess it's the same question, right? Okay, let's do one more. Just check for understanding. This is only for James. Don't feel like you have to write it down. I'm going to make it harder. Okay, James, here's example number 2. We've already done this one. Xavier did that one for us. What's the equation of the line for this example 2? We'll put example 2 right there. I don't know what it is.
Y equals 0x plus 2.
I like it. I would accept it. But does it simplify? Is there an easier way to write it? Wait, let me see. James, you're right so far. Can you simplify it?
Y equals 2.
Yeah, he sees it. See? Sometimes you do it and you think, oh, is there an easier way? This is how we do it. But the math way, the scholar way, the way that the people who write your tests write it, they write it like this. So I want you to take it from where you are, how you use it, to where they do it, like a scholar. Perfect. Now what about from a graph? You can set right there. Yes, you're right there too. Thank you. I'll get you caught up in a second. Here's some note paper if you want some. Now what about if I had a graph that looked like this and I had a line one, 2, X, Y, 1, 2, 3. Write an equation for the graph. Goes through here, goes through there. So, Tim. Oh, well, first thing I want you to do is I don't want the answer. I want to know what is the M and what is the B. Let's go with that. Ooh, you said 2 over 1x, and the b you said what?
Plus
1. Do I want the x for the m? Wait. Let's go back up here, up here, up here, up here. The m is the number in front of the x. Is the m including the x? No. I only want for m, the only thing I want for m is the number. So 2 over 1 is fine. Is there an easier way to write 2 over 1? Good. Now, that's not the equation for the graph, but those are what you're getting from the graph. So what's the equation?
Y equals 2 plus 1.
Now that we're writing the equation, we have to write the x. I got to know that this is the m. The m is just the number in front. The b is there, and I replace everything but... Oh, I only replace the m and the b in the equation. That's what I was trying to say. So far, so good. Now, what about if I have a point, 2 points, and I ask you to find the equation of the slope? Let's do this one. This is like number 16. -4, -1, and -8, comma 7. This is where it gets harder. You have ordered pairs. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. It's very similar to number 16 on your worksheet. Do you know how to find the slope of an ordered pair? We just did that in 3.1. Let's see if Hannah remembers, since she's right there. Hannah, do you remember how to find the slope of 2 points? What are you going to do? Tell me what to do.
7 minus 1.
Very close, small mistake. She said 7 minus 1. What should she say? Rhiannon, did you see the mistake yet or no? Rhiannon, help her. You could do -1 minus 7 if you wanted to. That would work. Let me write that over here. -1 minus 7. That would work if you go like this, but that's not the mistake Hannah made. Aubrey.
It should be 7 plus 1.
It should be 7 plus 1. How come, Aubrey?
Because it's a -1.
7 minus a -1 is 7 plus 1. 7 take away a -1. Do not forget, in our formula that we wrote down in the previous lesson, in the 3.1 notes, we did y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. You remember that? You have to subtract whatever the other y is. What Hannah did is she did 7, and she saw the negative, and she just hit 7 minus 1. But remember, you're subtracting that -1. That makes a huge difference. Does that make sense? That's a small mistake. 7 take away -1. Minus a negative turns into a positive. Over. Hannah, keep going.
-8 minus -4.
And what does that make this minus the negative right there?
Positive.
Good. Sounds to me like you learned from your mistake. Good. But if you were to do what Rhiannon was doing, Rhiannon did -1 minus 7. What would your denominator be, Rhiannon, for what you were doing? I'm confused.
It would have been -4 minus
Close. You made the same mistake Hannah made.
8. 4 plus 8.
Much better. And so either way, 8 over, this is a plus sign I assume, -4, or -8 over a +4, we're going to get the same answer for our slope. What is the slope equal to? We can't do that in our head? -2. Is that the equation in slope-intercept form? No. So we have half of what we need. We have to have two things. We have to have the m and we have to have a b. If you do not have the b, you're going to need to find the b. How do we find the b? You use 1 point to find the b. I'm going to write that off to the side. Use the smaller point and the slope to find b. Use the smaller point and the slope to find b. Here's what I mean. I have this point and I have this point. I have -4, -1, and I have -8, 7. Which one is smaller? What numbers are going to be easier to work with? That's what you have to decide. What do you think is going to be easier, this stuff or this stuff? Do you want to use -4, -1, or do you want to use -8, 7? What's smaller-ish? Or do these numbers look easier to work with than these numbers? Yeah, let's go and keep it simple. That's what I'm trying to tell you to do. Use these numbers. This is your x, this is your y. And we can write out y equals mx plus b. Remember how I told you to use this? You know what y is, don't you? It's what number? -1. Equals, do you know what the m was? We just found that out. And that's multiplying this x. What was the x? And all we have to do now we have 3 pieces and we can figure out what b is. Let me do some math. -2 times -4 is? I want the b by itself, so I subtract 8 and I subtract 8 and I get? I now have this piece and I have this piece, but I do not stop there because I have not answered the question yet. The question says, write an equation in slope-intercept form. Have I written an equation in slope-intercept form yet? No. And this is where James had a lot of practice, so I'm hoping James knows how to do it now. Xavier taught James how to do it. James, what's the equation going to be?
For which one?
For the one we were just working on. Write an equation in slope-intercept form. We have the 2 pieces. Can you do it?
Y equals
I agree.
-2 and 4 in parentheses.
Remember, when we write the equation, we're only replacing the m and the b. We leave that alone. He's close.
-2x
Good.
-9.
Perfect. Good. I'm glad I went back to you because you're still a little shaky with it, but you're there. You can do it with a little direction. I know you can do it. Perfect. So far so good. That's the hardest that it gets. Because after that, the last concept, I'm going to flip this over. The last thing you have to be able to do is to graph. And graphing should hopefully be the easiest thing that we have to do. I'll give you an example like number 21. On your worksheet, I think there's even little graphs that will be there. Like it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's already done for you. It's kind of nice when it's already there for you. If you have to graph this, the first thing you need to know is what is the y-intercept. So let's see if Cassie knows what the y-intercept is. What's the y-intercept for this problem, Cassie? I agree. That means this is where it's going to cross the y-axis. So from here I have to go a certain direction. Let's see. Ralphie, do you know where I go from here? Okay, which way is that? Up, down, left, or right? That's your first point. And I'm going to put here, B is the first point on y-axis. That's what I did first. Go ahead. Up 1 over 2. The second point is done by the slope, the rise over the run. Up 1 over 2. You can do it again. Up 1 over 2. Since it's linear, it's the same slope. Up 1 over 2. And for you advanced kids in here, for you kids who are going to go from Math 1 to Math 2 honors this next year, I also want you to know that this is the same thing as -1 over -2, isn't it? Aren't these equal? Negative divided by negative is a positive. You can also do this with your graph. Look at, you can go down 1 and to the left 2. Because I'm going down a negative, and I'm going to the left 2 negatives. Down 1 to the left 2. You advanced kids can also go the other direction and see that that slope is the same as that slope. It should be a positive slope going up and to the right. It is. That's how come I can prove to you a negative divided by a negative is a positive. It's still a positive slope.